The views expressed on the following program are not necessarily those of WPSL, but we're the ones that have encouraged you all along to like and share them on social media and with all your friends and neighbors, because it's time now for the Science of Caring. Careology, hosted this week by the one and only Miles McGrath.
Cliff. Can you hear me, Cliff?
Yeah.
Awesome.
You're loud and clear.
Fantastic. Happy Monday.
Did you hear me?
I can hear you.
Oh, okay.
You survived the Super Bowl.
You know what? I completely missed it. And I wanted to see, what was that girl's name that hung around?
Taylor Swift?
No, the national anthem, Reba.
Yeah.
Who's Taylor Swift?
I don't know.
Oh, okay. Oh, Tom Brady's replacement. Since they don't have him anymore, well, she does look a lot prettier than Tom Brady.
I agree with that. Cliff, thank you so much. This is Careology, and this is an arm of Carebag. And for those in the audience that don't know what Carebag is an organization, a nonprofit here along the Treasure Coast that services the homeless population by providing them with much needed hygiene products. We have mobile shower units that run around the Treasure Coast, helping our folks that live without walls get some dignity by allowing them a clean shower. We have a pantry van that drives around to different areas where they distribute food, and we distribute items that are sometimes hard to get for folks, like wipes, shampoo, soap, because we believe that proper hygiene is a right. And when you feel good about yourself, you feel clean, you feel good, and you're able to make better decisions, and you have more confidence. And that's what we do at Carebag. We provide that for the community. And this was a dream of Roseanne Brown, Roxy Brown, to do this show to provide more awareness and also invite partners in the community to build awareness about different things that we're doing. And one of the things we have coming up is a fundraiser. It's a high tea at the Gardens fundraiser. It's going to be at Treasure Coast Lexus, one of our great sponsors, on March 9th. If you are interested in participating in that, sponsoring that, it's a great opportunity to meet like-minded folks that believe in the mission of Carebag. Visit our website, carebagfl.org, to find more information. We're also having another fundraising event on May 7th. This is an all-female event at Fujiyama Steakhouse in Stewart, and there are going to be celebrity chefs there. It is a fun time. If you've never done one of these, I have had the honor of being a celebrity chef at one of these, and I had such a ball. We raise money for our charity, but we have fun doing it, and you get to meet some fun people. That, again, is on May 7th at 6 p.m. So if you are interested in doing that, we would love to have you. And of course, later in the year, on August 11th, we're going to have our back to school event where we provide haircuts and things for the young kids getting ready for school. Today, I have a wonderful guest. He is a dear friend of mine, and I was scrambling and thinking about somebody to bring on the show, and sometimes the solution is right in front of you. His name is Kevin Mahan. He has been in the hospitality industry for over 30 years. And, why would I have him on the show? Well, hospitality is, I feel, something we all need to, we've all been cut off in traffic. We've all gotten upset at different experiences we've had. And I think a lot of that comes in the fact that sometimes we miss that hospitality moment where we can be hospitable to somebody else that maybe isn't being hospitable to us. So that is why I asked Kevin Mahan on the show. Welcome to the show, Kevin.
Thank you, Miles. It's great to be here.
It's awesome and a privilege to have you here. Kevin, how did you get started in hospitality? Tell us just a little bit about your background and how you got started in that industry.
It's not a glorious story. I was a finance major in college, but made the mistake of not really studying up or understanding what the jobs I would get with that degree. And once I got out in the real world, didn't like any of them. and so bounced around a little bit. And but during high school and in college, I had always worked in hospitality, doing bar backing or working in a restaurant or um, catering, different odd jobs, and I always enjoyed it, loved it, but never thought of it as a career. Um, and bouncing around after college, was working with my dad at some point, and that too was not an ideal situation. Just and I left that in a need for a job. I opened up the paper and found an assistant manager job on it for a restaurant out on Miami Beach called the Fish Called Avalon, and I went there that day, sat down with the chef owner, and we couldn't stop talking. It was immediate friendship and passion for what he was doing and what I had always loved. I just never thought or looked at it as something to do for a career, and that's kind of where I got hooked. That's that job on at the Avalon Hotel. Fish Called Avalon was the restaurant.
It's so funny to see you got hooked at a restaurant called
Right,
the Fish
exactly.
Called Avalon.
Yeah.
And so I think a lot of people in the hospitality industry look at it, don't look at it as a long-term thing. They think this is just a bridge to get me where I need to go, and I think that's the case. But well, you really took it to the next level. What was that kind of breakthrough that got you from Miami, to New York City? How did you make that breakthrough?
Well, I do think that growing up in Miami, or a city that at the time for me wasn't really, and I wasn't really exposed to high fine dining as a kid growing up. A little bit here and there, celebration occasions, and in Miami there wasn't the culinary scene as it would be in those years. That San Francisco, New York, Chicago, Paris, things of cities where restaurants were a serious business for both the owners, proprietors, but also for people in them, and to make a career of being in the culinary world, the hospitality world, if you will. From a Fish Called Avalon, I did get introduced to the best restaurant in Miami at the time, which was Norman's by Norman Van Aken. And my dad happened to be a big fan of that restaurant and took me there for lunch a couple times, and I did realize what a step up in all aspects that restaurant was from what we were doing at the Avalon, which was a great and amazing experience and place. But it was on Ocean Drive. It was more of a tourist-driven location, and Norman's was the highest level of fine dining in Coral Gables, and I interviewed and asked for a job, or I don't even know if I asked for a job, but I think my dad asked for a job actually, and I went back to um, Quinn, who's the guy that I was working with back at Avalon. I was like, I have the opportunity to go work at Norman's, and not knowing what your current boss is going to say when you want to quit a job to go work for somebody else, I was hesitant, but he was over the moon. He was just like, he is my favorite chef. I'm so inspired by him. I have a picture of him on my wall.
Wow.
And so it was immediate, like, just, okay, I'm going to do this. And from Norman, worked on the front of the house as a server and a captain, and then also spent time in the kitchen. And through Norman, got invited to some events up in New York. And then that led me into getting introduced to New York culinary world, and specifically to a restaurant, Gramercy Tavern, and restaurateur, the owner then and still now, Danny Meyer. And I cooked at an event up in New York with Norman at Gramercy Tavern, and again told my current boss, Norman, that I wanted to interview for a job. And I, not knowing what he was going to say, he was 100% supportive, and asked if there was anything he could do to help me to get the job. And then after cooking that event, I was working in New York and at Gramercy Tavern about 6 weeks later. So it was just amazing how it all just kind of happened, when none of that, and not stepping into the culinary world was not in any of my plans ever. So
So you got into the orbit of Danny Meyer, who's, if anybody doesn't know, he is one of the renowned folks in the hospitality world. He's written books such as Setting the Table. He is a respected guru when it comes to that world of hospitality. How long did it take you to realize, that situation with at Gramercy Tavern? Was it instant, or did you take a while to really appreciate the opportunity there?
I think I knew. I mean, I was pretty overwhelmed because when we came up to New York with Norman on 2 visits, that last one where we cooked at dinner at Gramercy, we had also dined at Gramercy, and I knew just by being there and being taken care of in that level of service and hospitality, and just the execution of the space, the food, the service, that it was a different level, and that I was in for a serious education. And I definitely didn't think that I was ready for it, but I went in head first, and it became pretty infectious instantly, and just in regards to that level of because that level of hospitality, when you can be that generous, you have to. There's a lot of other things that have to be set up to be that generous and to be that good. It doesn't just happen. Feels great. It feels amazing to be able to invite people into your restaurant and take care of them as well as we did there.
Let's get back to basics here on the word hospitality from your point of view. Somebody who looked at being a server as kind of this is just something you grew that into. This is my career, to then managing one of the top restaurants in New York City, to so many things that spun off of that. How do you define hospitality?
Well, I mean, I look at it as an owner, operator, manager. So for me, I mean, you could break it out. Hospitality could be something as simple as, if we think about welcoming somebody into your home or your kitchen, and just making sure that if you're asking them, like, is there anything that they can get, if they look like, they're missing something, or just caring for any want or wish they would want. You want to make sure they're not, too hot, too cold. If they're guests in your room, do they have enough blankets? Are the pillows okay? You kind of obsessing about the comfort and but in a business sense of the hospitality, for me, it is not just the guest to me, because the guests, if the staff and the team are not taken care of equally. So for me, hospitality starts with the staff. If they're not taken care of, and you're not thinking and concerned about their well-being as well on a day-to-day basis, you can't expect them to be just have a full-throated effort to take care of a guest. If they're sitting there thinking about, like, wow, they still haven't fixed our locker room, there's no locks, I have to worry about my belongings in the lock. Like, if there's little things that they have to worry about, we don't have enough trays, we don't have enough glasses, we don't have enough, so, like, if there are things that you need to take care of them, not just the tools and the space, which is very critical, but also just being aware of you seeing, your best and most, buoyant employee come in one day with his or her head held down and not really kind of with the same energy. It takes a lot of time, takes a lot of effort to care, right? To be aware, to say, hey, Sue, are you okay today, or is there anything you need help with? It takes a lot. But we are in the business of reading and taking care of and comforting people's, just dining, but emotions, just kind of making sure they feel like there's, they've been given a warm hug when they come in, and by the time they leave, they feel that. But if your staff doesn't feel that as an employee, it's really difficult for you to think that they're going to do it as well as they can with every guest, even the ones that are more challenging, or situations that are more challenging. Yeah, I mean, so for me, hospitality is, there is just the one-on-one interaction of caring for somebody, and getting them a hot meal, or a hot cup of coffee, or but it's also, for me as a business person, it's about the entire scope of what it takes to set up that proper environment.
You know, it's amazing how often the bottom line is the excuse for not taking care of the staff. When in reality, there's books like The Service Profit Chain, there's experiences you've shared with me. When in reality, the better you take care of your staff, the better they're going to take care of their clients. And you just reiterated that with me. There is a concept that you shared with me over the years that it just bears repeating. And you know, when we're, you know, at Carebag, we're caring for people, right? People that are, you know, we shared last week about going to a job interview and just needing a shower. People that are living in the woods that need a shower. We can't care for those people if we don't care for ourselves and bring our best when we're delivering those shower units and doing that, just like the folks at the, you know, at the tavern or wherever restaurant is doing. But there's a concept that I really found powerful, and in the whole food industry has taken on a popularity with the Food Network and shows like The Bear. There's like an intensity that people recognize, but I think there's something that is missing in some of these shows. It's this concept that I don't know who, if Danny coined it or where this came from, but this charitable assumption. If you could break that down and share a couple stories around that, what that is.
Yeah, I don't know where. I definitely learned it when I was at my time at Gramercy Tavern, but I don't know where it came from originally. I apologize for that. But the concept of charitable assumption is you have to, it's really putting your support first and your confidence first and your trust first, because in whoever it is, because we're all busy and it's difficult. And, you know, you want to, you know, when somebody walks in late, you immediately, you're frustrated before they get there. Because you're already coming up with reasons or of why they're late, or that they don't care, or
when you say somebody comes in late, like an employee comes in late.
Yeah, an employee comes late.
Yeah.
Or if you, I mean, you could be having a dinner, a lunch meeting, a dinner meeting. You could be, and somebody that maybe you're the prospective client and they're the salesperson or trying to get your business, and they're late.
Oh.
So you probably could sit there and come up with a lot of reasons of why you're going to leave. You're going to walk out. You're not going to give them business, but you have no idea what's going on. You have no idea why they're late. You have no idea. And we can all come up with, you know, fabulous ideas about why. But going back to the story of an employee come in late, I did have a manager who knew and understood this concept very well, but was having a difficult day. It was a difficult morning. You know, there was a backup we had to call the plumbers because there was a backed up toilet. The lights in the dining room weren't working. A delivery wasn't arrived, and there was a lot of just things that kept adding up. And then there was this person that was late. And one of the things is, as a manager, that you kind of pick up on quickly is when somebody's late. Well, okay, they're late, but wow, they had time to stop off and pick up that cup of coffee. How did you have time to do that, but you didn't have time to get here on time? And this person happened to have like a coffee from one place and a bagel from another. So it was even worse. And this manager, and I kind of watched it in real time, knowing that he was already kind of at his wit's end
because of all the other issues,
all the other things
cascading,
and the other staff was also there, also bickering about this person being late. And it was building up. And when the person walked in, they were also on their phone, and it was like it was just one thing after. And this manager just went up and just laid into this person about being late, that all the other staff's doing their side work, this, that, I mean, all of it. And it's the wrong thing to do. It's the wrong approach. It's completely ignoring this concept of charitable assumption, because the comment out of her mouth was, "I'm so sorry. I've been on the phone with my mom who got in a car wreck this morning and she's in the hospital." And there is no proper apology for that, because one, it was, I mean, in the instant, because I mean, you do say you're sorry, but you can't retract it enough because that person now feels like you doubt them, you don't trust them. And, you know, sometimes there are employees that walk in that do that you have given you reason not to trust them. Sometimes it's an employee that that hasn't given you a reason not to trust them. But in this case, the right interaction should have been, the charitable assumption would have been, because I'm not for just letting staff do whatever they want or let them walk over you. The first question would be, is everything okay? Well, the answer would have been no. My mom's in the hospital. She got in a car accident this morning. And then we would have gone from there. Everybody would have moved on.
Everything okay? What a great question. Is everything okay?
It's that
Before
simple.
we lay into somebody, is everything okay?
Yeah. And I've had that simple conversation where it wasn't as severe as somebody getting a car wreck, but they did walk in with a coffee and a bagel and they were late. And I'm like, is everything okay? And they're like, yeah. And then I'm like, okay, well, now let's talk about,
now let's have a
talk
conversation,
about
right?
why you're late.
Right.
And why are you late? And the rest of your staff's doing your side work. And you obviously had time to stop for a coffee and stop somewhere else for a bagel. It's, you know, the message you're sending is that you don't care about this job, that you don't care about the team. And so there's definitely ways and places to hold people firmly accountable. But the charitable assumption is you just got to give somebody the opportunity to lay out the groundwork for where and why what's happening is happening, or what happened, or why somebody said something. Because sometimes if somebody's in a bad mood or they're having a very difficult day and they kind of just either answer abruptly, you know, why not? No, I don't appreciate you talking to me like that. Well, how about, is everything okay first?
Right.
You know, and then if they say, yeah, why? Well, I don't appreciate the tone that you just took with me. Like I'm not saying avoid the things that are frustrating about what's happening. It's just, let's take one deep breath and take a chance and say, is everything okay?
Yes.
And because there might be a really good reason that the person that's meeting you for that sales meeting is 5 minutes late, if they haven't offered it up already.
Yes.
But you need to be kind of pacified and calm down a little bit, because we all naturally just sit there. If I'm doing the side work for somebody that's late, I'm getting frustrated, appropriately sometimes, and many times inappropriately.
It really is an incredible skill that I constantly have to remind myself, because I make immediate judgments and put people in the categories without knowing the whole story. Especially when you're in a hiring, firing standpoint, you do have to make those judgments. But I think if you start by asking if everything's okay and then go from there, that's your management opportunity.
I think it's also just, it's a little tool to help save you a lot of energy.
Yes.
Nobody needs to be exhausting that kind of negative energy unnecessarily. It's a waste. It's toxic. It's not good for your soul to be, convicting people in your mind when you don't have all the facts.
So let's go back to the tavern a little bit. One of the things that we're going to discuss that when we get back from our break is how you guys built a team on a daily basis there. And so, Cliff, take it away.
We'll be back with more Careology, the science of caring, after these words.
Thinking of building your next home or renovating? Come see us at Grozer Builders. We will create a home suited for your lifestyle. With years of experience means we give you a complete professional service, from a dream to a concept. You will get the best results, best value, best quality is what you get from Grozer Builders. Visit us at grozerbuilders.com. You deserve better. You deserve Grozer.
Have you been wondering what your valuables are worth? Bring them to St. Lucie Jewelry and Coin, and their friendly staff will tell you, and they'll pay you top dollar. Hi, it's Evan 9 from the morning show, and I can personally tell you from experience that St. Lucie Jewelry and Coin is the place to go for all your jewelry needs.
Hi, this is Hawk Levy from St. Lucie Jewelry and Coins. I want to tell you all thank you for voting us #1 again. Best jewelry and coin dealer, best gold and silver buyer, and best jewelry store.
You know, the demand has never been more for fine jewelry, signed jewelry pieces, coins, coin collections, paper money, Rolex, and all luxury watches, even design designer purses. You ask why you should sell to St. Lucie Jewelry and Coin? It's real simple. They buy your jewelry as jewelry and not scrap. They resell everything on the international auction platform and in their local store. St. Lucie Jewelry does free confidential appraisals and house calls as well. St. Lucie Jewelry and Coin, located at US 1 and Walton Road in the Publix Plaza.
Hi, this is Roxy from Careology, and I just want to talk about volunteering. Volunteers don't necessarily have the time, but they have the heart. It takes courage and dedication to offer your time and skills to help out a cause that is a noble act that deserves recognition. Volunteering is a great way to make a difference in our community, and Carebag needs your help. We are looking for dedicated volunteers, so please get a pen, get a paper, and take down this number. It's 772-222-7399. Call us and let us know you're interested. We are looking for volunteers for the evening hours between 5 and 8 p.m. to go to our soup kitchens with our new mobile hygiene pantry. I look forward to hearing from every one of you. And remember, volunteers don't necessarily have the time, but they have the heart. Thank you. Create custom business signage that customers can't miss or resist. Let Design a Sign in Port St. Lucie help you get the job done right. Over 80 years combined experience. Get it right the first time. Call 772-337-4027 and tell them Roxy said to call. Remember, call 772-337-4020. Design a Sign in Port St. Lucie.
This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast.
We now return to the science of caring, Careology. Once again, here's your host, Miles McGrath.
Cliff, thank you so much. I want to thank our sponsors, Treasure Coast Lexus. Amazing experience. If you haven't been to that dealership and you're looking for a car, it is immaculate. The people there are professional, and you can't really, can you get any higher quality than Lexus? St. Lucie Jewelry, you know, Hawk does an amazing job. He's got great staff there, great supporters of Carebag, Groza Builders. You talk about a company that leads with their heart, does a great product. I want to just thank all these sponsors. Without them, we wouldn't be able to do the work that we do, and clearly we wouldn't be able to have the Careology show. So thank you very much for your sponsorship here on this show. If you are interested in being one of our sponsors, visit our website, carebag.fl.org, and talk with Roxy, and we can certainly invite you into the circle here for sure. So going back to my guest, Kevin Mahan, I want to talk about one of the things, that a tradition that I was really kind of impressed with that they had at this restaurant that still exists today, Gramercy Tavern, is they would get together with the staff. And what did you call that when you got together and you ate together? What was that called?
Well, it's called family meal. You know, that some restaurants or places call it line up, or, you know, just kind of a staff meeting, but it was family meal.
And what were some of the themes that would take place during family meal?
I don't know if we had, themes. I mean, well, one, it's just a time for everybody to gather to break bread and have, 15, 20 minutes just to kind of be with who they want to be, who they've kind of gravitated to as a friend or coworker. And then after that, we would do wine tastings. It was mostly used for educational purposes. We would bring winemakers in. We would open wine and taste them with the staff, introduce new food items, whether it's a pastry or a savory dish. And that was what that time was mostly used for. There were times during the year that, we would do the reading of the Grinch over kind of a 5-day period. In April was Poetry Month, and we would have so we kind of extended it. It was Poetry Month, but we would open it kind of to performance art, if you will. And it had to be something, quick and short, maybe something 2 to 3 minutes max. But mostly everybody kept it to poetry, and it was great. I mean, those were amazing little, very brief but really important times together.
I just think that if you got a company, if you got a business, what an opportunity to get together with the staff, to thank them, to make it a family, and communicate that by the action of sharing together. And I always thought that was a wonderful, there was a cost to put that together, a cost in time and a cost in energy, but you and the management team thought, we've got to do this because we want to connect with our staff, and it translated into your staff then caring for your clients. Amazing. I always thought that was wonderful how you did that. I've had the chance of eating there several times, and I always came away like, how do they consistently achieve that? And I that's obviously one of the pieces to that. What, as you look through your career, what were some of the mentors that you had that were in this, that kind of left their impression on you?
Well, going back to the Avalon, Jerry Quinn, for one, 100% chef, owner, runner. Like he inspired me. And then Norman and the entire team there, the two people that were there that got me to New York, in addition to, Norman and his restaurant and giving me the opportunity to cook at a couple events in New York. Without that, I would not have made it. But the two people there was a Laura De Pasquale and Cesar Borsuto, who were amazing. They were heavy into wine at one point, kind of the wine somms, and Jeffrey, who was the GM and wine director. All of them kind of just helped push this level to the even further. And then when I landed in New York, it was, there were so many. My kind of coach, mentor on the more senior level when I became the GM and then managing partner was a gentleman by the name of Paul Boltz-Bevan. He was the one that, because when I got to the GM and then the managing partner, there are, at every level up to that point, I would have a review by a supervisor at some point. And then when you get to be the one running the business, that kind of goes away, and that you need to find that feedback, that constructive criticism in other places. And Paul was that person for me to help me kind of, shine light on the positive things, but also focus on the areas for improvement and where I needed to spend more time and energy. And so again, there's way too many that I would to mention. But if I just had to take a big broad swipe, those are the folks that come to mind. Since we're on hospitality, though, I do want to go back to your comment about the patrons as clients, because one of the big things for us is that everybody that came to our restaurant were guests. It was not a customer, it was not a client. And I know there's a lot of restaurant people out there like, this hogwash, but for us it was, if you want to really embody that spirit of welcoming people into your home, or as a guest, then you have to live it. You have to say it. Like, these
be our guest.
Yeah, be our guest.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to touch on that.
No, that's a huge distinction, mindset of
it
how would you treat a guest in your home versus, they're just a customer, or they're just my means to an end.
It just changes the dynamic.
Totally.
It changes the relationship.
Totally.
It's not a transaction,
yes.
Right? It's a relationship.
I love it.
Always wanted people to leave the restaurant feeling better than when they got there. And what's wrong with that? And nothing. That's what we enjoyed, and that's why I and many of us have gotten into the business. So, yeah.
To facilitate that good experience, because at the end of the day, folks are going to come to a restaurant of that caliber for some type of special occasion, and they're entrusting you and your team to handle and make that a special occasion. It's really, you're really, that's a lot of trust.
Yeah, but I think that setup of the relationship between the guests, and could be anywhere. It could be at a burger and hot dog
Yes.
or pizza place with
Yes.
peanut shells on the floor. I still want you to feel like if you're coming in to have a quick bite for lunch at the bar or table by yourself, or if you're coming in to spend a very, just a energizing 45 minutes to an hour with your significant other or with your son or your daughter, it still should apply the same.
I think it applies in the wider world, and we need it more today. And that's why I wanted you to come on. I mean, I before the show, I stopped at Wawa and I was rushing in. I stopped. Somebody butt in front of me, it was my turn to kind of pull into the parking lot, and I stopped. And I said, what am I doing on this show? I'm going to talk about charitable assumption. I don't know what this person's going through. Why do they need to pull in front of me and butt in front of me? Just let them get into their parking spot, and I can just take a deep breath. I'm not in a hurry. And I took it a step further, then I opened the door. But these are the things that I have to remind myself, because we are in this trying to get here to there. We got our technology, we're trying to get our coffee, we're trying to go here. But all those things matter on how we treat other people, but they really matter when you're trying to do a business like a high-end restaurant. And that's why I wanted you to come on here today. One of the things that I really appreciate you, Kevin, is when we do go out to eat together, you point out things, and probably only about 10% of the things that you notice so many different things. And you've really helped me with the relationship, being the customer or being the guest, with the server. What are some of the things that you, in this position now, you can share this? Would you share? What are some tips you would share as you're going into a restaurant? What are some etiquette to treat the waitress, to treat the folks there? What would you share with the audience?
I mean, to me, it's just as simple as just be kind. I mean, I think that if you want to get into the details of like what I see when I walk in a restaurant, I mean, I do start collecting like data points about how busy it is, or if we didn't get seated right on time, or if there's a long wait list or group of people up front that are agitated, and therefore, and if just kind of the whole energy of the place. If people are, there's a lot of places, not only in restaurants, there's a lot of places now that are understaffed, and they didn't remove tables and remove chairs because they only have 2/3 of the staff. They still have the same amount of seats, and people come in and they want to get seated, and they, when they make a reservation, definitely want to get seated at or before when they're a reservation. But just trying to take into account, like, most people that have jobs, and including in the restaurant world, want to keep them, and they want to do a really good job, especially in the restaurant world, where most places still, I think 99% are work on tips and gratuities. So, you will come across a server at times that you would swear that they think that they're not getting paid by tips by the way that they act sometimes, but it's rare. And usually, again, if a situation for the staff is challenging, and whether that's the management or whether it's they're too busy or the kitchen's backed up, it's stressful, and people wear that stress differently. And I just think trying to be patient, trying to be not overly demanding. Like, if you think you're going to sit down and before your rear end hits the chair, that you're somebody's going to be there to take your drink and have it to you in 30 seconds, you have to have reasonable expectations. And I think that's just, and reasonable is, if you've never worked in a restaurant, it's hard for you to understand all the moving parts of what it takes to run one, and why there might be difficult or pressure points here or there, or the kitchen or the dishwasher, or who knows. the computer systems were a little like
Computer systems.
Running amok today, which is at Gramercy. When I first got there, it was an ancient system. I can't even remember the name of it, but it didn't last very long, I think. But every December it would go down for like a week. Now, for anybody running a restaurant and knows how busy and difficult it is to nowadays, everything's electronic, almost everything. To imagine doing it all back on pen and paper. And, the first thing when the computer went down, somebody said, well, they had to handwrite checks. Well, they knew what they had the check written down, what they ordered, but who knew what the price of a Coca-Cola was? Who knew what the price of an orange juice was? Nobody, because it's like our phone numbers now. Nobody really knows anybody's phone number.
Great
right?
analogy.
Like you call it every day, you know it every day, you use it every day, but if I asked you my phone number, could you tell me? Probably not.
Oh my God.
So it's, I think, just being open-minded, being patient, first sitting in the room and just taking a read of the energy. If things are working now, if your server's over in the corner on their phone, texting or talking or goofing off and not paying attention, that's a disappointing experience.
Yes.
But if you see that same person is running around and trying to get from table to table, never stopping, never not in motion, trying to get things done and for people, I think you need to be a little forgiving, a little understanding that they're doing the best.
So here's a good question. Without being creepy or anything, somebody did a good job for you. You had a great experience with your server. Of course, you give them a tip. What are some things you could say to them to really make them feel special, to thank them for giving you a good experience?
I mean, I think just saying it. I mean, obviously a good tip, but if you just say that you took an amazing care of us tonight, and because if is what they're enjoying about part of it too, that will resonate. And that you had took a moment to say it, because a lot of people just leave. I mean, nowadays you can pay your check with your phone, right? So they drop the check and you could scan it, the QR code, and walk out. To me, that's also just not like, I think there's a relationship there of just the final farewell, right? Of saying goodbye. But going to your point, I think just, saying, we had an amazing experience, you took great care of us tonight, is simple. It doesn't, it doesn't have to be anything more than that. And I think anything more than that, I don't know.
I was really touched by some of your patrons, how they were thoughtful, and you were thoughtful of them after, we all went through something terrible in 9/11, but you had some patrons and things like that, some really touching stories about how people kind of gravitated around the restaurant after 9/11. Would you mind sharing some of that? I know it's kind of a touching experience.
It was obviously devastating for the city, and for the immediate area, but for the entire country. But for the restaurant, we closed down, but the GM at the time, Nick, he brought us as a management team together, and he's just like, what, the city, our neighborhood, not necessarily the city, but our neighborhood needs us. And Danny was echoing that as well at the other restaurants, is that the city and the neighborhood needed places of comfort. They needed places to come together, places to get away from their TVs, because it was mostly TVs then, more so than our phones now. But it was phones and TVs and newspapers, and just to get away from the 24-hour news feed of what happened. And it was just a reiteration to everybody that was involved what our responsibility is to the community, because the community is a very critical component of why you open a restaurant. Obviously, people think they have a great concept, whether it's pizza, burgers, fine dining, whatever it might be, and they think of a beautiful space, and they want to make money and be a successful business. But there has to be a relationship with the people that are going to come there, the guests. And that time, the city and the country were hurting. And so for a couple of days, we were hurting and closed, but we were we had a responsibility, and the responsibility was to open. And the amount of love and energy and appreciation and gratefulness for us to be open, for people to just forget about what had happened for a moment. It's still going to be back out there when they go back home on the news and the paper. It's going to be there tomorrow. It's going to be there tonight. But everybody needs a break. And it was just a repass from just to be able to come in, enjoy a nice meal, whether it was lunch or dinner or a glass of wine, something that was nourishing for the soul, in addition to the body. And the staff equally needed it. That exchange of emotions of the people in the neighborhood and in the city and in our industry was paramount.
Always love that. So looking at you, Kevin, you have accomplished a lot in the world of hospitality. You've taken a little hiatus the last couple of years. You went out and worked the wine harvest during a fire. That's a whole other topic for a whole other episode. But most recently, you've decided to take on a role again, managing 5 restaurants in New York City. Sure, I know you haven't kind of started yet, but this is a kind of a dream come true for you. You've known the owners of this restaurant for like 9 years. What do you envision as your next step doing that in that role?
A lot of what we talked about, because the 2 women who are the chef owners are incredible, and I have known them for almost 10 years. And they have been running this little mini empire of theirs for operationally and culinary wise and by themselves for, I want to say it's 12 years. It hasn't been this big, hasn't been 5 restaurants for that long. It grew, each of the women had their own restaurant, and then they've done 3 together. And it's an incredible little empire in the village. And I think that whereas they have a pulling to be more focused on back to what they're inspired and driven by on a daily basis, which is cooking, culinary, and in the kitchen. And a lot of the operations, if you will, the management of it is carves into that time of where they would rather spend their time. So I think that as it's gotten bigger and those responsibilities that have taken them away from and out of the kitchen have grown, so is the need for somebody to come in and help perform those. So the goal is to basically be the operator, if you will, given the title Chief Operating Officer of the businesses, so that they can focus on the vision, the overall vision of the company, and the focused culinary vision of each restaurant. And to make sure that they're as sound as can be without losing a step on the operations side and running the facilities and the management staff, and the staff itself. So it's a lot, but and that's kind of a broad, description of what the role is going to be, but it's to allow them a little bit more time to be back in the kitchen in a place where they love and thrive and where they do their best work.
I think that is amazing, and the story about how it all came about is even more amazing. But we can't reveal all the secrets here.
Not today.
On the show. One of the things that is really inspiring to me is the story of you going working the harvest and the fire and everything like that. But it's even more inspiring is that Kevin has a confidant that unfortunately has made that transition. His grandmother that he checked in, and you mentioned mentors. I have to say that, would you call her a mentor? Or what would you call Jean to you? She's your grandmother, but that was somebody I think that could give you that nudge when you needed it.
I mean, yeah, because for me it was more than mentor, right? It was a life source. It was just an energy and a bond and a relationship that I will never have again. It's something that there was a time I needed her and she needed me at some point early on when I was a kid, and my mom needed some help as a single mom at the time. And my grandmother, when she was raising her kids, she had 3 kids and was always working 3 to 4 jobs. And she often mentioned that she treated me the way she had wanted to treat her kids because she never had the time, and was, regretful for that. But it was an amazing relationship that inspired me to do better every day, for sure. So whether we call it a mentor, I don't know. I don't. It doesn't matter to me.
Right.
But it was extraordinary, important.
I get to experience some of that myself, and I am a better person for it. One of the things I think with our young kids today is, how would you encourage them to develop a mentor relationship? If you're somebody who's starting out in an industry, how do you do that?
I mean, I do think that it's the onus is a little bit on the people, the elders, to to try to foster a relationship, a conversation, just a dialogue with somebody that they see that either might have a similar interest or similar work ethic or similar. And I think likewise, I think if you're somebody, if there's somebody that you admire work-wise, because I did gravitate as not a child, but as a young adult, to the people who I wanted to model myself after, and just try to find myself in their vicinity, in their orbit more often. And that's one way to do it, is just find the people that you respect and you cherish, or the way that they work and carry themselves and make decisions. And then just try to find ways to be in that person's orbit, whether, to listen, learn, and just absorb, and hopefully develop a relationship that can, blossom.
I think you just defined what Careology is all about, is being open and caring for others, being willing to receive that love from somebody who wants to offer guidance, and on the other side, being willing to offer that guidance and being open and care. And you mentioned community. Kevin, this has been an honor to have you on the show. And all of you out there in the audience, I hope you're a little bit more caring today. Open the door for somebody, give them that assumption, that positive assumption, that caring assumption out there. This is Miles McGrath. This is Careology. Thank you so much.
You've been listening to Careology, the science of caring, presented by Carebag every week at this time. Archives can be found on YouTube. Go to WPSLTV.com and binge watch us some Careology. Who knows, you might be the next major careologist around here. This is WPSL Port St. Lucie, the talk of the Treasure Coast. Sneaking up on CBS News Time, 11 o'clock.